Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track off of an album titled Journey of 1,000 Miles. The album's from Iyanex, and this track is titled Ain't My Fault. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the track on the screen. This track features DND Betterdayz, and we're going to listen through it from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do this.
Betterdayz.
It's just beats magician.
I love the sound of those synths and the vocals and the lady vocals as well coming in, the drums. It's so smooth.
What can I say? I've been on liquor after you could sell me. Sunshine on me, I'm on the way. I'm in my lane, jigga every other day. What can I man? What can I say? I've been on liquor after you could sell me. Sunshine on me, jigga, I'm on the way, jigga. I'm in my lane, jigga every other day. I want you to understand.
Dope, and I love the fact that we've got the single vocals in the center for that verse, and then we bring it in on the sides. There's a bit of sort of development, both sort of thematically and also in terms of the actual musicality and the production experience. I assume we're having a different vocalist now? This is my first time with them, so I'm not sure who's who.
I'm so sorry, baby. I want you to understand that this ain't my fault, baby. Would you be my lady? I might be your baby.
Interesting. We've got a great little bit of development there. Several different vocal styles on each side. You know, the focal point is obviously the singing here, you know, and the gentle caress of that part of things. But I love the minimalism of the arrangement behind it. You know, you've got the drums and then you've also got the synths and sort of is there a bass?
What can I say? I've been on the
I don't know.
Sunshine on me, jigga, I'm on the way, jigga. I'm in my lane, jigga, every other day. What can I man? What can I say? I've been on liquor after you could sell me. Sunshine on me, jigga, I'm on the way, jigga. I'm in my lane, jigga, every other day.
It's unless you got every other thing. It's interesting because like I don't actually know if there is a bass in this. Like at least it's in the mid-range. If it is, there's not a lot of sub bass, and I think that kind of makes the song sound kind of floaty and kind of airy. Obviously a lot of the you know resonance is in those mid to high frequencies, especially with those mid to high range vocals. Interesting effects change on the vocals.
If you come, I'm in my prozo, and I'll be there, I will see God and nice.
I like the little bit of fizz and sizzle as well. I can tell that the compressors limiters in this track are being pushed a little bit, but it's not to the detriment of the performance. There's great side chaining on those drum parts there. Everything is nice and clear in the mix. The vocals have been filled to sit nicely with the rest of the elements, and I think part of the strength of the track is the minimalism of the composition of the production overall, because it allows there to be space. It allows things to not mesh together and argue with each other. It's a very chilled out motif.
I'm on the way, I'm in my lane, jigga every other day. What can I man? What can I say? I've been on liquor after you could sell me. Sunshine on me, jigga, I'm on the way, jigga. I'm in my lane, jigga every other day. I want you to understand that this ain't my fault, baby. If I barge into your life, girl, I'm so sorry, baby.
If I barge into your life, I'm so sorry. This is not my fault.
I want you to understand that this ain't my fault, baby. Would you be my lady? I might be your baby. NLMB, that's a family name.
Did they say take the family name? It's an interesting first production to Iyanex as well as DND and Betterdayz as featured artists. Because this is my review of this track from Iyanex, Ain't My Fault, off of the Journey of 1,000 Miles album. What do I think the song is about? I think this track is about someone saying to a lady that their baby, yo, you're in my lane, you know, this isn't my fault if we get twisted, you know, like this is just gonna happen, like let's just make it work, you know, like this is just a natural thing. It's a destiny. I get that kind of sort of romanticism about it, you know. They're trying to keep it casual, keep it cool, keep it chill, kind of keep it intimate. I like the style of vocals as well as the story. I think that this kind of soft, gentle kind of how do I describe the way the vocals have been done? It sounds like they're having a conversation, and it's kind of at nighttime, and they're being very sweet towards each other. And I think that this was an element that was carried across the featured artists. So I'm not sure who did what of which, because I'm not familiar with these musicians at this point. This is again the first listen to them, but there were no weak points at all. I think that the featured artists were as strong as the main one, and again, there's so many different ways of interpreting this. For instance, you could have the main artist be like the producer and then have the featured artists be the vocalists or something like that. Although I'm pretty sure there were 3 different vocal sets there. I'm pretty sure we had the higher vocals at the start that were doing the hook stuff, and then we had the lower sort of mid-range. They were harmonizing together, and then in the later part, for like the second verse, we had another featured artist who could have been DND or Betterdayz. Sometimes you get musicians who are actually they're really I don't know how to say this without sounding like they're very secure with what they're doing with their music, and they allow the featured artist to go first to get that impression with them. I think that's a really sweet thing to do. I'm not sure if that's the case of what's happened here, but anyways, the vocals were fantastic. Careful, considered attention to vocal technique, using great use of their head and chest voice, and I think also we had a specific focus in either of those two per singer. We knew that if we have the vocals go high on the sides or on the center, and if we have the mid-range chest voice in the middle, those will contrast well with each other, and we can either have them alone or separately. I'm glad that we had the third vocalist by themselves, because they're a bit of a mixture of the both. I would need to listen to this song to get more of the nuance of what the track was about itself. I did enjoy listening to it though, nonetheless. That's the beauty about songs like this. They do have a replay value. And I think, the motif behind these vocals where we had, to be fair, there was a little bit of vocal modulation, I think, on some of those tracks. I'm not saying it was that it was a detriment to the performance. I don't mind a bit of reverb there. I don't mind a bit of modulation, a bit of meta-tune, a little bit of, auto-tune or something like that. Although I can tell these guys can sing without it. It's just a stylistic thing in hip-hop and rap. You know what I mean? And that's totally fine. It's not like this is a new thing, and it's not like they're using it to cover something up or smooth over a weakness. This is their strength in their lane, and they're very comfortable in it. And I think that's great, especially when you're releasing an album like this. I think the motif behind it, to get back to that, though, was thoroughly relaxing, enjoyable, colorful. But there was also a sense of minimalism behind it. You had the drums, you had several different synth pads or plucks or whatever. And there might have been a bass or something that came in later on, or a few other extra layers that sort of sprinkled the later half. But I think for the most part, we had a similar motif carried throughout, with variations to the drums and percussion. Having a lack of a bass line again that I could hear. There wasn't a whole lot of sub bass, although it could have just been very quiet, I'm not sure. But I would hear the bass in these headphones. They're very good at picking up sub bass, and it's why I have these as a secondary reference set of headphones for mixing and mastering, because I have like these guys and they pick up the mids and highs really well and a bit of the lows. But if you've got any weird bass resonances, these will pick them up. So yeah, absolutely, they did well. I think to not have a bass, because you've got these floaty conversational tones, you don't need it to thud or smack the listener in the eardrums. You need it to kind of just sit there and be pleasant and nice to hear out. And, alongside the mid to high resonance of those vocals, I think the instrumentation accompaniment matched that tone well, that softness, that sweetness, that sensuality to it. And it was great. I think it was nice that they did adjust what was going on with the percussion occasionally, just to keep it exciting and engaging, or interesting at the very least. But at the same time, the track was 2 minutes 26, so it didn't necessarily need to make it an odyssey. We simply needed to have that motif stand there and make sense and be engaging for those 2 minutes 20, whilst we had these 3 musicians come in, do their thing, and come out. And I think, again, if this is the quality of the rest of the album, I think it's going to be a strong album. We had a little bit of sort of development to some of the melodic sequences and passages and stuff like that, but it was definitely more of a vocal focus throughout the arrangement and composition. I think it works well for this genre. The actual production, the recording, mixing and mastering was sensational. I enjoyed this track. It sounded like it was ready for release. The quality of the vocal recordings was great. I'm not sure if they were recorded through the same microphone or through different ones. There were slight tonal differences there, but that's not a bad thing. That's not to a detriment. I think especially nowadays with technology, you can collaborate with musicians around the world. And, you know, these musicians will be recording different rooms, using different microphones, using different preamps, using different effects chains, and all sorts of things. But at the same time, I nonetheless feel as if all these, the actual vocal recordings did fit well with the tone of the rest of the recording. And I think it was great. There were these effects changes like reverb, bit of delay occasionally, the panning of the vocals on the sides, going backwards and forwards, a little bit of automation maybe occasionally. The filtering and the EQing of it was great. There weren't the red resonant frequencies or anything like that. It was very polished. The drums sidechained well into the synths and everything like that without sort of hurting the vocals or cutting into them too much. I think that's part of the filtering and letting the vocals sit above the drums, is that you don't have the bass drum trying to sort of argue with them. And that's also, again, a testament to the minimalism of the actual production and arrangement. Everything at Anisha, the stereo field and the frequency spectrum, everything was reasonably well limited and compressed. And that effectively is my review of this track titled Ain't My Fault by Iyanex, featuring DND Betterdayz off of the Journey of 1,000 Miles album. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this track, please do go check out Iyanex's various social medias, and I'm sure this will be on all digital streaming platforms, including Apple Music. And stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.